yourself, you will survive. Just know it, just breathe it and be it, and live your best life.
I was up there talking with my mic off.
I
Hello,
was
hello to all of my Motivators family, and welcome to Let's Look at the Sun podcast. Okay, and today I have my wonderful guest co-host, delightful underscore Dawn, and let's welcome her to the show. So, today, everybody, we're going to be talking about this amazing topic of the power of small shifts, and we're going to be talking about some things that we can shift. And for the most part, this topic is about there's so many things that we need to do in order to be our best, our happiest self, and it's just a matter of allowing ourselves to do those things. So, welcome to the show, everybody. Make sure to like the stream, to subscribe, and I'm going to put a link to Dawn's channel in the comment section. So, okay, Dawn, we're talking about this topic today. And first of all, tell everybody about your channel.
First of all, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Power of Small Shifts title. I am Dawn, delightful underscore Dawn. Follow me on all social media platforms, delightful underscore Dawn. I feel like the best way to explain my channel is an all inclusive dump. I'm trying to almost rebrand, but pretty much like lifestyle. I do lives and I sometimes create, nice videos that I post that are short. But yeah, pretty much that's what I feel like it's lifestyle. That's the best way to explain my channel.
Okay.
Lifestyle.
Okay, awesome. So, Dawn was the one that chose this title because I asked her. So, first of all, the power of small shifts. What made you come up with this title, Dawn?
Well, originally, 2014 was a year of reflection, and I feel like a lot of shifts.
Hmm.
20 from 2022 to 2014, no, 2014, 2022 to 2024, I feel like there were a lot of shifting movements inside my life. And in 2025, that's when I finally I was talking about on my channel, I stopped surviving and I was in the thought process of thriving. So I feel like I was now shifting like the mindset of me to make myself or put myself in a position to be ready for a lot of things that I feel like God is having for me. It's just in general. So I feel like small shifts can um can really make a difference for individual, especially mentally and emotionally when dealing with stuff. Sometimes let's say it's mind over matter. And so that's what made me pretty much be like, I feel like it's a year of shifting, like mentally, physically, emotionally, the way that we deal with people in our lives, how we interact with other people. Marlene knows all the time. Like I'll be in the live and I'm like, when she's talking, like some people are negative, and I'm like, yeah. And sometimes it's you, not her, but like it can be me, where I feel like
Right.
I need to start shifting the way that I think about things and how I deal with people, the way that I talk to myself, the way that I refer to myself, just shifting in general. I feel like it's a shifting season.
Yes.
Shift it.
Yes, and I love that for everybody, for such a long time. You guys wouldn't know now, but for a long time, I had that problem. I used to be in such a angry, state of mind, complaining about my life, hating it and everything. But I was the problem in the equation. It was not saying that other people weren't doing wrong, but ultimately it's about what we are doing, and what we're allowing. And if we don't like it, having the courage to step up and change it. And how many of us complain about things on a consistent basis? We'll be consistent about complaining. See, I can be consistent about that complaining thing, but I wanted to do something different with my life and make some major changes. So we're going to talk about first about shifting and how much power there is. There, a power shift, okay? It's allowing yourself to move from one space to the other, and I think this is so important, especially when we start talking about, elevating our life, having the growth mindset, the growth mentality, and we're trying to get into this abundant zone and get to success and winnings. And success does not always mean financial, even though you can be financially successful with the shift. But that success or having riches, living a rich life, it's really honestly about making a choice to do the things that maybe you don't want to do, other people aren't doing. It's basically making a choice to listen to that voice in your head, and when it tells you to do something, for you to allow yourself to shift into that, elevate, to grow. And I know that that's easier said than done. I know somebody right now is rolling their eyes at me like, whatever, girl. Like, you think I don't want to change my life? I do. I want to change my life, but it's more involved than that. We have to want more than just saying, I want a different life. It's what are we doing in real time to actually make that shift, to actually allow ourselves to elevate and to grow. Hey, Gio, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, Gio.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, is allowing ourselves to have the permission to grow. And I don't know about you, Dawn, but I had a big issue with that. I had so much issues with letting myself be great, because when we're used to being in that downward state, that
Mhm.
downward spiral, we're used to only doing the minimum, or being there for everybody, that we sometimes have a problem with allowing ourselves to be in the spotlight, letting ourselves be great. And I had to talk to myself about that. Like, it's time for me to shift from being the supporter to being supported. That's a big shift.
It can be, and I always think like when they say tiny shifts make big impact, and it's not as quick. It's almost the hi mommy. That's my mommy.
Hi.
That's my mom. Hey mom. And so I feel like I said, tiny shifts make big impact, and allowing people to help you, and especially in a season where you're not I don't want to keep saying shifting, but in a season where you are being reflective and kind of setting boundaries for yourself and for others, and kind of putting yourself first, it can be hard, especially when you're in a role like you said where you've been supporting people, and now you're taking the main stage of trying to accept support when needed. And I had made a post once on Snapchat, and I was just like, when people see you struggling, they don't ask if you need help. And then someone made a comment and says, how is someone supposed to know you need help if you don't say nothing? And I'm like, well, sometimes people can see you struggling. And she was like, no, I disagree, because a lot of times some people are just not aware that there is a struggle, especially when you're in a role of always being so tough, or feeling like, or being in a position where people see you as, some not of greatness, but like just, oh, they always know what to do, they seem to have everything together. And I think Marlene had did not a post but a live a long time ago, where you were talking about how much you were pouring into people, and you weren't being poured into, and you felt pretty much diminished, and you needed a moment to step back, and you had stepped back from YouTube for a while. And I'm like, I felt that. I even felt like, dang, me at that time, I was coming to the lives almost religiously, and I was taking in what Marlene was saying. I was getting that motivation, but I also didn't have the capacity to give anybody anything else. And I'm like, I need to make it a point to reach out every so often just to check on Marlene. And Marlene, like, oh, thank you. Like, it's nice, I gotta say something. I'm like, no, it's just I just didn't know. And I was at a point to where all I could do was kind of accept people, like I didn't tell people I needed help or that I needed stuff, but YouTube became a place where I got motivation. Because in my real life, I just really didn't feel like I was getting poured into, even though like people were trying to like a little bit, but it's almost like my just the people that was the closest to me, I just kind of felt alone. And or either felt like I had to be strong to a certain degree in order to have like this a presence of authority or people to respect me. And for the longest, I was telling, I think, I don't know if I told Marlene, but we had a conversation offline. I think I told you, but I've told a lot of people
I think
that
so.
in a moment I became so hard because my natural demeanor is very jovial, very like, I feel like I had a kind heart. I was almost kind of like optimistic to a point to where it was sickening. Like people used to be like,
Yeah.
you can't find the good in everything. Like, yes, you can, because I was taught by my mom, always to have an optimistic view. That way you're never let down. Like, yes, you can be sad, you can have those feelings, but kind of shifted a little bit as far as how you think of the glass half, full instead of half empty. And so when everything I felt like for me kind of shifted where it was negative, I became a pessimist, real big
Yeah.
pessimist. Even to now, like I'm not gonna say I'm like as far as like where I used to be like that, like when the first when someone comes up or say something, I'm the first negative like comment. I'm not as bad as I used to be, like maybe a year ago, but I was just like, you can't trust nobody. If there's a person walking down the street, I said they homeless. They homeless because they deserve to be homeless. They put themselves in this position. And someone was
Mhm.
like, dang. I'm like, I have no empathy for nobody because they was like,
Yeah.
why are you just so like on 10? I'm like, because if people see weakness in you, they'll take advantage. And they're like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
so I feel like people at that time, once I was just like, I think I made a post like, I just feel very sad. And I didn't say it for me, but I had made a post like read, how you can repost something. And someone was like, you don't seem happy. The stuff that you repost are not posts of someone who is happy. And so that's when
Mhm.
I started seeing like people would send me like certain clips and motivationals. And sometimes, it just depends on how people feel like they can be there for you. And I feel like that's why like the small things that people do, like you never know how far it goes. As far I made a comment in Marlene live, and just from that small comment of me, like, girl, like I am not, I'm going through a lot. And she was like, that's it. I'll reach out to you offline. Like me and Marlene don't know each other personally, like we never met in person, but it was like a source of genuine concern. Like, hey, I
Mhm.
don't know what's going on, but I want to offer like an ear. Everything
Yes.
works out for the good to those who love the Lord and who are called into His purpose. That's my mama. She's so church.
Yes.
And my
But
mom, my mom is really big on like self motivation. So I feel like that's why I connect really big with Marlene. I feel like people like that who like you don't have to always be optimistic, but Marlene, when what she presents for us is to have that optimism of seeing the glass half, full, and that type of presence is
Mhm.
nice. So when I stepped away from YouTube, that was the reason why I'm like, I'm not in a place to where I can see, I don't want to come on her being angry and, just having that type of demeanor with the presence. Like, I want to have a footprint to where it's not like she was angry, but I can totally see how people can feel, like have to set themselves apart to where they have to kind of get themselves together. And it was the small things that I did for myself, as far as just reading. Like my mom used to always send me encouraging messages as far as daily bread and wanted me to read devotions, meditation. I started doing, I can't get up because I don't have no pants on, but those daily prayer cards
Mhm.
where I have started buying those and reading them. I feel like it's really a mental shift sometimes, and of how you do stuff, of how you react, and how you can deal with people in situations. And I feel like that's been my biggest thing for the last maybe I say 3 years,
Yeah.
almost 3 years, where I'm like shifting my mind to going back to where it's one of like value of myself, because for a very long time I didn't know like what is my purpose here on this earth if I'm not happy all the time. Like that's supposed to be my thing. And someone told me it's okay not to be happy. And I'm like, I don't know no other way but to be happy though.
Yeah.
And it's not like a fake happy. It's just like my mom would say, growing up, I was like that weird kid to where they're like, why is she smiling? And it was like, she is doing something bad. She's like, no, that's just
That's
Patty.
just you.
They call
This
me
is me.
Patty. So that's just her. And I would just be sitting there smiling, scared. And I'm like, I don't like I smile when I'm sad. I smile when I'm like mad. It's just like a nerve. Like you could tell the difference almost because like Marlene, like we've known each other for like what is like 7 years.
Yeah, about 7 years.
It's
Yeah.
like online, and so she could see it in my face, and I feel like even sometimes I can see like a shift in someone's personality, even if it's virtual. You can tell in the tone of their voice. So I feel like as much to bring it back is that you need to sometimes almost tell people or either let's put it out like, hey, I'm not the best. And that can be a small change because sometimes people who are always used to being there for people don't know how to tell people when they need to be like someone needs to be there for them. And it doesn't have to be like in person, it doesn't have to be all in your face. Just like how we like check in. I feel like that's just nice just to know someone notice if I'm not around or like here. It's just nice to know that someone is like looking out for me or just wanting to seem like a positive, like, cute little me. It's just nice to get that sometimes. And so I appreciate you, Marlene, for putting that
Mhm.
energy out there. And I hope that, we here on online can provide that for you here and there because I know we're not as good as you. Marlene is
Oh,
a
no,
boss
no,
babe.
no. You know what? One of the things like I have an amazing mentor, and she was telling me that because I think I have the type of personality that I have like the perfectionist type of personality that I like things to be this way. Like I like everything to be according to plan. This has to go here, this has to go there. And it's just because of my upbringing that there were so many things that was out of control. I make sure now in my adulthood that things go according to plan. And I had to learn that everything can't go according to plan. Everything can't, everything isn't always going to be roses and sunshine. Not everybody is in a space of peace because people are going through real things, in real time. And I had to adjust my personality because I went from being such an angry person to being a person of peace because I made a choice to see myself. And for me, maybe for some people that's a big shift, but for me, that was just a small shift in learning to love myself. And I think that that's very profound. You cannot put the oxygen mask on other people before you learn to put the oxygen mask on yourself. And I think I had been hiding all of my pain, all my trauma, all the things that people had done to me, and just putting on this plastic smile, putting on this mask because I that was my coping mechanism. It was easy for me to smile than to, go face, forward into my pain and talk about the things that I was going through. So it's not that I didn't have faith. It's not that I didn't love people, but for the first time in my life, part of my shift was being transparent enough to say, girl, you need to sit down and you need to, go through all of the things that is really bothering you and evaluate it, seek some help so that you can be your best. Because while you can smile with other people, like why not be genuinely happy instead of put being,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say fake happy, but I wanted to be genuinely happy. Like when I smiled, it's because I really feel happy inside. And that was something that I had to learn. You don't have to put on be fake, like what you were saying. You don't have to put on this smile for everybody, and inside you are dealing with some real things. So I had to go about learning me. Who am I? And what really encouraged me is knowing that God loved me before I loved myself. And I had to get back in touch with my spirituality, with my faith, and that helped me a lot because it's helpful to know that we are loved. When you go through things, you feel like nobody loves me. But even if everybody abandons you, God is there. And that always, no matter what I'm going through, I always remember that God chose me. God loved me before I loved myself. And thus, if He can love me, why can't I love myself? So I always put that back around. And that's a shift for me because as human beings, we naturally are inclined to try to fix our own situation. And this has to fit in this cookie cutter life. And there's some things it's like, no, you're not supposed to fix this. Let go and let God handle this.
That totally, when you just said like you don't have to fix it, I don't know if that's like a thing. What's funny is that I feel like we're opposite but the same. That as far
Mhm.
as like having like I start off super like in life with just like kind of like naive with people, and I feel like you're more serious, and then you shifted to like okay having to kind of soften yourself and how you deal with people, and it was like opposite for me. And even now, like when you said like how I became so rigid to where I'm like, why is a person doing this? Do they not know if they do this, the outcome could be different? I feel like when you start thinking about what if a person do this and they do this, like this is what would happen. In our reality, I feel like you never know what can happen in situations, whether you do something one way or another. But I feel like if you put, like you said, if you keep God first and ask for, guidance and how you do things, then all you can do is like trust in the Lord and just pray that whatever the outcome happens, that is in his will. And then you have to also know you can't control other people. That was a big shift for me. It may
Big
be
shift.
small, but it was a big shift for me. This like the last 6 months is that Dawn, you can't control other people. And then a friend kept telling me, said, "What's in your control?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I mean, and it's like that circle. Y'all see the circle about what's in your control. I'm like, "What is in my control?" That I can actually, make a difference with the outcome. And people wasn't one of those things. Like, what can I do? I can change my mindset about how I deal with stuff. I can change, how I love on people. What is my reaction? And so sometimes people don't know. Sometimes the reaction has more of an impact than you wanting to like control somebody and what they're doing. It's your reaction to how you deal with it. And sometimes you have to, set yourself apart with certain things. And I know my mom will be like, you need to go back to church. That's one of my big things. I do want to go back to church because I feel like when I had a strong support system when it came to fellowships, I feel like church is not like, okay, you need to be in church, but church is a place of fellowship that people come together and believers in like a big like in a mass settings, whether it's one or two people, but some sort of like environment of people fellowshipping. I just desire that. I'm a very people person. A lot of people are not, but I'm like extrovert, introvert. Sometimes I just want to be by myself, and I feel like I kind of desire to go out amongst the people because I just like having people that are like minded. So that's a big thing too. I feel like that's a small, I guess not a small shift, but that's just something that you want to be around people who are like minded like you. Like it's okay to go out and hang out with individuals who not necessarily think the same way that you think, but it's almost like my mom used to say, iron sharpens iron. I don't want to be dull out here when it comes to dealing with situations, reactions. I remember years and years ago, I had started cursing. I just,
Yeah.
I found the bug of Samuel L. Jackson. And a friend of mine, she was like, "Hey," and someone had did something. I said, "No, no, 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 no," and she said, can I talk to you about something? And I'm like, talk to me.
Yeah.
What's
Like,
girl?
what
And
are we
she was
gonna
just
talk
like,
about?
I've noticed that you have been, popping, like dropping a lot of words. Bad company, corrupt good morals, period. And she was just like, everyone assumed it was her that had me cursing like a sailor. And she was just
Mm,
like, I just think you've been cursing a lot, and it's almost kind of like you angry about something. And I wasn't angry. I felt like people didn't take me serious unless I had went off. I felt like
yeah.
people take the whole, the nice guy thing, as it's like I can run over you. And I was like, girl, I don't even like cursing. I don't even sound right cursing. She said, and that's why I said something. You don't even sound right. You ain't even putting the
You're
curse
like, that's
words
not
together
even
right.
you. Yeah.
So she was like, and they think I'm making you curse. And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, I don't even curse. I'm like, well, maybe because, we together. And they just thought because we together, like you just influenced me to be cursing. So I just think like that's like a big thing is like, kind of like setting a certain standing for yourself. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to bring, like personal to me, but then also like personal to everyone. Hey Carol Do. Hey everyone. Hey Okay Lounge,
Well,
Gwen,
hey,
Michelle.
Gwen.
I feel like we missed a little people. Hey
Yeah,
y'all.
we did. We missed Carol. We missed Wellness with Frugal Mama and Gwen Michelle. Good morning,
Welcome
everybody, and
in.
everybody who's in the chat, anybody who's listening in the background. And I'm glad that you said that, Dawn, because I have always been a person. You say you're introverted, extroverted. I feel like I thrive best when I'm by myself. I'm definitely the person I can do best when I'm by myself, but I feel like I also can be a social butterfly. Like in certain situations, I can be the life of the party. I can, go out and speak, do my motivation and stuff. I can be that person, but I think I'm my best self. I'm the sharpest when I am by myself because it gives me an opportunity to think things out and I'm not influenced by anybody else. I'm doing things because that's what I want to do. And I had to learn that. You go through that stage in your life when you're in that people pleasing stage. And for in the beginning, it was like I wanted the friendship of my schoolmates, and then it got to be of workmates, and it got to be of so many people, and then it gets to be a romantic person. You want that attention, that love from those individuals, but
Validation.
yeah, that validation, but then you get back to yourself again, you
Hmm.
know? And I'm grateful because some people never get back to themselves. I got off track for a long time. That people pleasing spirit is a very dangerous thing.
It is.
It's very dangerous. Like
It is.
we have to really beware.
Yes. I mean, almost like even like pleasing yourself in a certain way of like you feel like, oh, this is what I need to be doing. I feel like you need to have direction and what the purpose that you're doing stuff for. So like you said, it can deal with people, it can deal with yourself. So with me, like me thinking when you say that, I'm thinking I can see you thriving by yourself only because when I first met you, you were just like this. I was immediately drawn to you because I'm like, she needs to be pulled out. And
Yeah.
once you put Marlene out, it's over. She was like monopolizing everything, like here, here,
Yeah.
here. I'm like, Marlene, this not the Marlene I met years ago. And you was like, this has
Yeah.
always been me, but it just takes like warming up to like the environment. But it makes me think I feel like maybe at that point you were pouring into yourself and that's why you were able to pour out to where you did to pour to
Yeah.
YouTube. And I feel like when I think about how we allow people in our space, that I've always asked, I know like you want to make everything about the Bible tells us to guard our hearts for out of it flows the issues of life. I feel as though that's what I was going to this point is that um I had to watch how I allowed people to pour into me because
Mhm.
then I can see me kind of almost like diminishing a little bit. And then when we do like allow people to come to us, I'm just a very loving spirit and I ask God for what discernment. And I feel like one thing with people, I'm very good with. So I don't have to meet you in person to meet like a not like a spirit, but like meet that soul. I feel like you can tell a good person. And I've always been good. And my mom, my sisters, they'll all be like, you don't know this person, they told me this and they good. And I'm like, you don't have discernment. And I say you need to start asking God for that because you can be a good person and not have discernment with people, and people will use you for that love that you have forgiven, that love that you have, that agape love that they talk about in the Bible, and they see that as an opportunity to almost like finesse a situation. And so with
Yes.
people, I always ask for discernment, just period. So even if I was like even being negative in a moment, I almost kind of knew when a person had a good heart, and I always knew when stuff wasn't right. And I got that from an old, like one of my mom friends who we had called Auntie. I don't know, because I know you Caribbean. I don't know if y'all call everybody Auntie, but we would call
Yes.
like people that was like friends of the family, like this Auntie so and so. But her name was Aunt Tony, and she was like, you need to ask. God about discernment for people when I was young, and that was one thing that I asked her. She said, You're nice, and people see niceness as weakness, and you need to ask God to show you who that person is before you start allowing them in your space." So
Mhm.
I'm a very friendly person. I have a lot of acquaintances that I call friends. I'll call almost everybody friend, but I know the difference between like a friend and like someone I feel like is like a family. So to me, I'll say everyone's a friend. But I feel like once we hit that level, like you being family, you my bestie, like it's like different titles for me. I mean, all is just words. But I feel like as much as I'm allowing you in my space, I've been very careful that years, even at my worst moment, I'm like, I'm not allowing everybody in just because I know that, that type of energy can kind of shift to you. And you also just want to just have discernment with people in general. And oh, hold on, I got a cough.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't want to ever put out there you shouldn't trust people, but I would just always ask anyone listening that you just ask God for discernment or whoever you believe in for discernment in situations, because I feel like that's a really, really big thing. Because some people won't even have compassion, like compassion with when you're not in the best headspace and vice versa. Like I ask for God for compassion for other people now going forward, because discernment was like a big thing for me and how I dealt with like people. But now I'm like, Lord, have me have compassion for others that I just kind of lost over the years. So I know who a person is, and like I ask God for that, like to know their heart. But I feel like certain time, every person, even if they're not right for you, you don't have to treat them in that way. Like you are a trash person, I'm gonna treat you like trash. Like you can still show love, but don't allow people all in your space. My mom was I'm like you talking about my mama. My mom was a missionary growing up.
Hmm.
One of the biggest things that I feel like I've taken away was she used to have, I thought they were friends. And she said, "This is not a friend. This is a mission." And I'm like, "A mission? What the heck does that mean? Why are they around us?" And she was like, "You have to know the difference, because certain times you are in people's lives for for like a season, and it's a mission forward." And I just didn't understand that. I knew discernment was a thing. I knew the people there's some people I'm like, I don't like what they like, the feeling that I get around them. Like she was very protective in that way, but we was just doing stuff for people as far as like getting food or giving like dropping them off and or having their kids. Like we would do stuff for them or neighborhood children, and I just didn't understand that part of like why it mattered until I got older. Which I feel like certain times people can be a part of your life, but they don't get to have full access. So that's just the thing too. Like figure out how to allow individuals to have access to you, because you don't want them, if you're there truly on a mission to kind of shift their life, then you shouldn't allow that type of behavior that you're trying to help shift to kind of impede on you and how you do things because you think it looks nice, or this is how you get in because that's what you like. Oh, well, Jesus did this, he went into the house. Or no, you don't let them,
Yeah.
like, you have to watch who you allow in your space. But I feel like a lot of that has to do with how you view yourself. And I feel like you talk about that a lot on your channel about self care and prioritizing like your needs and having grace with you, to where I feel like now people can, like, you can find a lot of information online, but I feel like your channel is a clear place to find like that daily motivation, those doses of just inspiration throughout the day to kind of help you deal with people. And you talk about people a lot, about how you allow people to treat you, and I feel like we talk about a lot like how people are treating you, and then how you treat people in general. I feel like that's a like a small shift that people can do as well. And I'm glad that you brought that up. It's like how you interact, because interaction is big. I feel
Yeah.
like interaction, first impressions are big, but sometimes it's okay not to be okay. And I feel like if you just know that person, or open up your hearts. Okay, well, this could just be the situation. Because sometimes you could be out and you ever like met someone, you're like, that was not a good encounter. They don't seem like that type of person. I feel like allow people to get second chances as far as like introductions, but sometimes if people show you who they are, it's like a moth, like a thing that keeps happening. You just have to accept it as what it is. And I've learned
Yes.
that too. Like certain people, you just not gonna get the best like interaction with them, and that's okay. Like you can just keep it moving and pushing. I don't know how big you watch a lot of the TikToks.
I'm not. I I'm not in that.
So there's a TikTok of a lady recording her coworker. You know, our coworkers. It is a great
Mhm.
show. This is a great show. Shout out
Yes,
to
thank
Marlene. Dun, dun, dun,
you.
dun. It's a show of a lady on not a not a show, but you know TikToks they're like kind of like small, almost like reels. As I heard y'all have on YouTube where it's like a nice short video, tops 10 minutes, which they now consider short. But
Yeah.
she's recording her coworker, kind of confronting her about her unfollowing him on social media.
Mm,
And she's like recording because he came up to her. They work in a call center setting, and she said, "You could hear him in the background saying, I'm just coming over here to figure out do we have a problem." And so she said, "We do not have a problem. Where did you get that from?" And he said, "Well, you unfollowed me. Obviously, we have a problem." She said, "No." She said, "I unfollowed you for my peace. And once I heard that you said something about me, you don't get allowed to have access to me." And he's like, apparently we got a problem. She said, "I don't have a problem. If you have a problem of me unfollowing you because now I don't want you to have access to me, I don't trust you, but we don't have a personal, there's no problem. I don't have anger
mhm,
towards you. There was just a clarity of how you are allowed to have access to me." And so I feel
mhm,
like that's probably like the biggest self-care thing that you could ever do is like have boundaries on how people can have access to you and how you deal with people in general. Just think if you allow like the petty, you ever just like the petty stuff where you watch someone is following you and you saying certain things just to get a reaction. It's called subtweeting without subtweeting. Remember subtweeting was a thing
yeah,
back in the day.
yes.
Subbing people like in messages and coming online. I think Marlene has never done it. But I used to come online and I'd be like, individuals out there thinking that, and so it's like it's unnecessary to have that type of energy with a person when it's not needed or warranted. And if you've already addressed something to where it's like, hey, I don't like that. And now I know for a fact that you're kind of like watching me and I don't want you to have access to my personal life. So I decided to let you go off of the interwebs of having access with me. Especially
Mhm,
if you're not a content creator. I think she just posted it is more like one from like an HR like perspective. If they like, oh, was there ever an issue? Well, this person came up to me and confronted me in a group of like a large group and about social media. So I feel like one of the big things, y'all, I would never be careful who you allow on your personal platform, especially if you're not a content creator.
yeah.
Then people shouldn't have access to all of your social media, especially just in general, because certain people are malicious. They'll go back and look at certain stuff. As far as for me, I feel like certain people have access to my Facebook, which is probably the personal thing I have because it's the longest social media that's still standing. MySpace, I don't even know how to get on there anymore. I had a MySpace back in the day, but people and their access is a thing. Don't allow everyone to have access to you, and that's a part of self care, real big that I feel like we
Yes.
can take away.
And I feel like for me, I'm so happy that you had a mother that was there supportive and guiding. I didn't have that. I had an older mother, and she was just doing the best that she could. Back in the day, a lot of the older people, our elders and ancestors, didn't have the things that we have. They didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the support. They were just in that survival mode of just providing for their family, a roof over their head. They didn't think about your emotional, communicating and how
Hmm.
are you doing and showing affection. They were just in the zone. I got to take care of my kids. I got to take care of my spouse, or I got to do the things that I need to do. But now that, it's another generation, now we have the knowledge. And with that knowledge, I had to make an application, which I call it first generational healing. And I'm happy to say that I didn't grow up having close relationships with my siblings. Everybody was in their own world. And for me, a shift was learning to love the people for who they are, because it's like you can know people your whole life, but you don't know them. You know of them, but you don't know them. Like, what makes them tick? What do they like to do for fun? And for me, that was a shift in a safe space. I almost call it like dating my family, because it's like I know them, I know of them, but like what kind of person, like what do they like to do for fun, what's their favorite movie. So I had to learn to how to lower my guard and to let people in because I'm very protective of me. I really don't, tell people about me or let people have access to me until I feel like it's safe because of a few situations that happened to me in my upbringing. I just kind of like cut everybody off. But I had to learn the power of not harboring resentment forever, forgiving people, because for such a long time, I had I had a lot of anger for what somebody did 20, 30 years ago. And for me, my shift was learning that people can change, people can heal. And if God has forgiven them, why can't I? So that was something that I had to learn, to not harboring resentment and anger for everybody. Not saying you're just going to let your guard down and give them all the trust, but give people an opportunity if they're talking right, if they're acting right, give them a second chance to prove that, they've matured just like probably you've matured. So that was a shift for me, giving people a second chance, a second opportunity, because just how you have grown and elevated and matured, give people that opportunity as well.
I keep coughing while trying to.
Okay.
When you were talking about like how you relearning like your siblings and like family in general and like the setup of growing up. Hey, Colton,
Hey,
around. I don't know.
Colton.
I think we missed Colton
Yes.
around. Okay, hi, welcome, welcome in, and it made me think how like one of the things that I always grew up like listening was like my parents. Both of my parents had completely different upbringing, and my experience in my household was completely different. Even though it was a two-parent household, even though I'm telling you, my mom was like this massive energy, very much like not Elizabeth, you in the room, you in the chat, but she was super religious, and so sometimes that was very overwhelming for me, and I felt like there's always that one person in your family. It could either make or break it as far as like how you grow up with your siblings, and I feel like I was that person in our particular family that kind of like got along with everyone. Everyone kind of pretty much loved me, or either like could tolerate me because I wasn't annoying, I wasn't doing nothing. I would get into stuff, but then I was like, okay, but that's her. She's sweet. I would do stuff like, okay, I'm sorry, or like, well, Mama said this. I was very much a mommy's girl and a daddy's girl at the same time, but I always thought this is everybody's life. Like everybody is close to their siblings in the way they live in. And
Mhm.
I found out later on that's not a thing. And I'm like, I just never could understand how people could live together and
Mhm.
not be cool with their siblings or have like hatred. But then I feel like that was just me living in a bubble of like there is a testament. As much as my mom get on my nerves, Mama, you get on my nerves, but there's a level of like gratitude that I have for her, and I'm grateful for her, like to be here in this like this season of my life, just in general. And I know she's not gonna be here forever. That I'm like, it's a lot of stuff that I could pick up. Like, dang, when she used to do this, I didn't know that she was kind of shifting the atmosphere. And I feel like that's like a big thing that sometimes it can make or break a situation in the family dynamic to have a person to set a tone. And because our household was not like this lovey-dovey, like super jolly household all the time, because I said my parents were two different people. My dad grew up, they I don't know how much he would talk about it, but my grandma had suffered from mental illness, and a lot of that he just very rigid, very much Samuel Jackson-esque. Like,
Yeah.
just don't bother me. But it was a level of loving. He was quiet, but also like he had a certain presence. You ever walked in a door or someone walks in and you like straighten up?
Yeah.
You don't want to mess.
Yeah.
Daddy,
Don't mess. Don't mess. Yeah.
it's a different parent from mama and daddy. It's like, what's about to happen here? You don't want to piss him off. And I felt like she overcompensated for my dad being like his way, to where we were like in everything. Every sport that you could think of. She was making sure he paid for it. They need to do this or they need to be a part. We was in every play. We was in everybody's house. My mom always believed in like my kids are a part of my package. It was six of us. So it was like if my kids can't come, I'm not coming. And certain people are like, well, that's not fair that you would say that like that you won't come because your kids won't or not everybody don't have kids. And she was like, I have children. If you want
Right.
me to come, they're not at the age to where I can leave them alone or that I trust them with people necessarily. And it's so many of us who wants to watch six kids. You know what I mean? Like who's going to watch them for us? And we got when we got older, we was like, thank you, Lord, leave us be. We don't want to go. We don't want to go to all these church events. And she was like, certain stuff you have to go to, and certain stuff you can stay home. But
Mhm.
I can totally relate to how you saying like now you relearning people. I feel like
Yes.
now I'm almost hey East Dad. I'm almost learning how to deal with like my adults family versus it. And one of what is my cousin? She has this podcast on Spotify and I think Apple Music where she talks about your heart posture and learning. She's relearning her family and herself and how she deal with family, and which I would have never known because from the outside growing up, I used to be very much envious, not like an evil, like a malicious way, but I'm like, it's only two of them, it's
Yeah.
the perfect. It's one girl, one boy. They got their mom and their dad. They always look so cute. Like they just look like their hair always look nice. And I feel like I was very tender hair. My hair just didn't look nice all the time because my mom. I would like y'all. Like you ever like someone thought you was beating the child in the house. So I never got whoopings. She would tell you I would be the person I hyperventilate before the whooping could happen. That she felt so bad that she's like, I can't even whoop you because you didn't had this whole tantrum about the whooping before you even got the whooping that I'm afraid you're gonna have a heart attack. I'm like, I'm going up to church and I'm going to the altar, and for me not washing these dishes, and I knew it was disrespectful. I was just dramatic. So when when she would like do my hair, I would like fall out. That was people thought I used to get
Mm.
whippings, and she was like, "Girl, I was doing this girl hair for her," and she, how I just be doing all of this. I'm like, ah. So she would do the bare minimum
Mm.
for me and try to have it in a style where I could use, like it could just last a little bit. So I was just very envious of everybody. I'm like, they hair looks so cute, but I know I didn't want my hair to get done. Like I cut my hair one time because I said, if you, I'll just cut it all off, mama. She said, if you cut your hair, you would get the biggest whooping that you ever got. And I said, well,
Mhm.
I don't, can we get hair? Like, can you do styles that that you don't have to touch as often? So she would braid it to the back and then put the pigtails. I'm just like, I don't want you to touch my hair. But I said it all to say is that when dealing with people, I felt like just learning like the family dynamic. I'm relearning my family as well because I felt like a long time I had like this naive view of like my family in general that I'm just like
Mhm.
we're not perfect, but I feel like we're the best that we can possibly be considering how we grew up, just having like a praying mom to where I'm
Yes.
very much grateful. Like when I hear other people's stories, it's like, well, dang, ours wasn't the best, but I knew she was she was trying to give the
She's doing
best
this. Yeah.
experience for us. And grant you, I'm just one perspective. So meaning my perspective of my childhood may be completely different than my little sisters, my older sisters, and my brothers. But sometimes when they talk about stuff, I'm like, I don't remember that happening that way. And they was like, Patty, you was just like different. And I'm like, no, because I felt like doing this. I'm like, well, did you not know this was going on during this time? And like a lot of people I would say, my mom just had us in the church. She just had us in the church. She just had us in the church. I feel like she was almost like overcompensating for a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that she didn't want us to have to witness. Or just like you said, doing the best that she could to where I'm like, that's just a pleasant memory for me to when I talk about my mom, it's rarely anything negative that I would say. She is a person who don't have discernment. But other than that, I'm like, Mama, you just everybody I get. She would tell you, I will not because first off, she said respect your elders. I would respectfully say stuff like, you do know this isn't right. Like this isn't normal. This isn't normal behavior with people. And she's
Mhm.
just like, I let God use me. I'm like, my mama, she's wise, but I'm like, Mama, that wasn't wise. So she was saying, like, I have a very strong opinion about how I deal with people. I have a very strong opinion how I allow people to deal with my family. And I feel like that's what I'm relearning. I'm shifting in how I deal with my family and relearn them. And just how when you said it's not, it's like like you dating them, it's a
Mhm.
relationship. So I feel like with any relationship, what you're gonna do, nurture and grow it and like pour into it. And I feel like a lot of times because we were taught that in a romantic relationship we pour and we put into, we don't do the same in family. We're quick to
Yep.
like cut off family members because like, well, if you don't do this, I'll let you go. But we won't let go of man that's abusive
Yep.
mentally, physically, and emotionally, financially.
Yep.
But we will let go family because we're like, I'm not dealing with that with no
Yeah,
female.
I have to deal with it. Yeah.
And
And and and,
I'm
and
not
that's
doing that.
and that's one of the things that I had to learn about when it comes to relatives and people that I love, that I don't have to say yes to everybody. And
Mhm.
that was a boundary that I definitely had to learn, because I was definitely that person, like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Nobody's going to do it if I don't do it. And then when I saw like life was still moving on and things were happening without me doing it, I was like, okay, so what was I doing? I was doing too much. So that was a shift that I had to learn, to not always keep myself open to everybody, not allow everybody to have access to me, and to not only have boundaries. But this was a big thing that I learned when I was in therapy, is enforcing boundaries. You can tell people what you want, but then when they're running over you or not respecting your boundary, I had to learn that, okay, I've told you, I've warned you, I told you I didn't like X, Y, and Z, and you're still doing it. Now is my time where I need to protect me. Now is my time to protect me. So that's the time where you're going to either put people in timeout, you're going to stop going around them, stop supporting them, block them, whatever you need to do. And I'm a person that I'll warn you. Okay. I asked you last time to not do this, and you've done it again. If you do this again, now I'm going to have to block you. And that was something that I am so proud of myself with, that, because I am a person that I have a big problem with confrontation. I
You
don't
will
like.
hate it.
Yeah, I hate it. Like, I know I need to tell somebody no. I know I need to stop going around them. I know those things, but I'm the person, like, I I think because I'm such a loving person and I'm so kind, I don't like to hurt people's feelings, but at the same time, God revealed to me that we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our heart. We have to protect our money. We have to protect our peace. We have to protect so many things in the process of loving ourselves. We can't love ourselves in the full capacity and do the things that we need to do in our life if we don't show people. you know you have to show people how to treat you. You're the one that sets the routes, the plan. Because if you don't know how to respect yourself, if you don't know how to show people, okay, I don't disrespect myself, so why would I allow you to disrespect me? And that was something that I had to learn. I had to learn how to listen to my own voice. I had to learn that I can go silent without having to tell anybody my business. That was something I had to learn, because I was the type of
Mhm.
person, and feeling like everybody was supportive or kind or have my best interest at heart, and everybody doesn't.
They
So
do not, Marlene. Nope.
yes. So
Some people prey on your downfall.
I had to learn that after I got run over and people broke my heart, that I can't trust everybody. So I had to learn that, what I call it, walking in silence. I had to, like, I'm accomplishing my goals and doing things and making shifts in my life, but I don't have to tell anybody what I'm doing. Just show people by your actions. And for me, that was a major shift, learning that, you can do what you want to, you can elevate, you can grow, you can heal, but you don't have to inform people what you're doing. It's like, you don't have to go and toot your horn and say, hey, everybody, have an announcement, I'm about to do this. Like, I had to learn that. You just go and you do what you're going to do, and then people will see when it's revealed.
Can you put a geo comment?
Sure.
You have to just do it and keep doing it, saying no, and then becomes easier. At least that's how I worked for me. And when you say that, I immediately, when Marlene was talking about it, I'm like, first off, Marlene made 2 points. Loving how you love yourself. Like, how can you expect people to love you if you don't know how to love yourself? And then
Mhm.
two, setting boundaries and then sticking to them boundaries and communicating those boundaries. So I feel as though, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong. But what my mom says, she says, set those boundaries are critical to the heart health and a healthy life. A great word. Cut them off and keep on moving. So I
Yes.
feel like there's a healthy way to do stuff to where there's promoting growth for yourself. And I feel like one, you can't like you said, you can't tell someone how you want to be loved, like, oh, this is how I
Mhm.
want to be loved, if you're not loving yourself in that proper way. And that one big way is how you allow people to treat you. So people are going to learn by those type of actions. Well, Marlene or Don, they don't play about X, Y, and Z, because if you do that, they won't engage, or they'll let you know, hey, I don't like that, and that's just not a way that I like to be communicated to. This is how this is how I like to communicate. So you can be very much upfront of
Mhm.
communication and stuff like that. I used to get really mad anxiety with people not I'm reading Rodrigo, the Whitney Houston comment. How people would treat me, it would give me major anxiety if someone was mad at me.
Oh.
Like and that's even on YouTube. There was a YouTuber, they was upset with me. It could be family. And I didn't like the perspective of people not being happy with me. And
Mm.
it didn't matter if it was something I did, it was my fault, if it wasn't my fault. I just didn't like the idea of someone just like having this type of demeanor with me. I'm like, well, what did I do? I always wanted to fix it because I like to be loved. I feel like that was loving was like a thing for me. And I feel like I had not recently, but I feel like as time progressed, like we both like we have openly talked about being in therapy, is
Yes.
first realizing what is my love language. And the first part that we even like kind of like discuss is how I like to be loved. Cause
Mhm.
I know how I like to love on people, but what is the way that I like to be loved? And sometimes the way that you love on people is not necessarily how you like to get love received all
Yes.
the time. And it can be with family, friends, romantic partners, coworkers. Like how do you react to that, and then it can be like a positive growth. I feel like that's a big thing that I've been working on, and that I want to promote other people like to kind of figure out like with the boundaries, because I feel like boundaries can that's just such a long conversation. Like I feel like
Yes.
you always talk about it, I always talk about it like just random conversation. And there was a friend of mine, and I was telling her, she was like, I'm setting boundaries on this. And I just blocked everybody. And I said, did you communicate that before you just went and blocked them? Like, did they notice how you felt? They should. And I'm like, that's like, I feel like I understand where you're coming from and you're upset. But in order for you to learn how to properly grow, and then like this would be a learning moment, you need to learn how to communicate how you want to be loved and appreciated and said, especially if it's people that you care about. If you don't care about them, I would say keep it moving. If they're not really a part of like the season that you want to be in, but I feel
Mhm.
like you're deflecting because there's someone that's close to you in your life that you haven't set boundaries with, that you let run over you, that when this person did this, you really wasn't upset with them doing what they did. You was upset with another person. That was your straw of like the
Mhm.
tolerance that you had in general. So you have to like identify when you feel like a boundary is being crossed, is it really with that particular person or a situation with someone else, and then how to kind of detach that and deal with it separately. Because a lot of times we're like, I'm not letting people run over me. No, I can't believe I keep coughing.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
keep
Take
putting
take
I
your
keep putting
take
it
your
on mute.
sip. Take your sip of water.
Okay.
So I'll read this comment. Maxine says, sometimes our strength is a threat to folks. Oh well, thank God for who you are and continually trust his leading and those who support bases you have. They are your strength. Been all need someone. We all need someone to talk to. And I think that's something that is so important in talking about shifting into your potential, because I don't know how many of us need to hear it, but I think it's something that the majority of human beings, we don't get on a regular basis. Somebody saying you're valid, you're valuable, you're important, you matter, you can do great things, continue on. We don't really get that. It's like society is set up to you always looking at your weaknesses, but it never looks at that you're trying, you're doing your best, and all of those small little shifts. And that's why I always say all the time, it is so important to have people like your mom was saying, and like how I grew up, iron sharpening iron. It's important to have those people in your life. And something that I had to learn, it's not always the people who are right in front of you. It's not always the people right in front of you, because if they're not sharpened, or if they're going through something, they can't sharpen you. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. But
Mm-hmm.
when people are on a low playing field, going through some mental health issues and etc., they can't sharpen you if they're going through something. So I had to learn to search for accountability partners, mentors, coaches, so that I can be my best. And that was a shift for me. Not being haughty, learning to be humble and say, you know what, I need help. And yes, and real estate, especially Black folks, and I don't know how many, just everybody having that mentality to allow myself to say, I need some help. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this all on my own. I need
Yep.
somebody to encourage me. I need someone to say, to like literally sometimes kick me in the tush. Like, girl, get up and go to the gym. Like, literally, I gotta have somebody come in. I'm at your door and like pull me outside, put your sneakers on, let's go. We need people like that that will keep us at our best. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, that was a shift, learning that I don't have to do it all, that I can lean on other people, and that if somebody says something, it's not a personal attack. It's that they see the best in me. You got to have people like that that know your potential, and they're not doing anything to bring harm, but they want you to do better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a shift for me, learning to receive help.
And that's a big thing. So I'm reading East dad made a point that where the way that he was raised was different. He didn't experience that type of like mindset with people. But I feel like you always have to keep in mind that as when the beginning we was talking, everybody experience is completely different. And I feel like that's why you kind of need a plethora of individuals in your life. Like of course you want to have people like you said, iron sharpen iron, but sometimes you need to be humbled by individuals who may not have had the same upbringing. And
Hmm.
then if everyone all came to the table with the same ideas and ways of thinking, you would never have progression in life because then you would just, to me, I would just like you would just be still. And sometimes you need to be out of your comfort zone with like humbling, and I feel like that's like kind of a thing for me now because before I used to be like you. I said I was raised a certain way. I was raised to think things in a more positive type of optimistic view, and like
Hmm.
have like and just because that was taught to me doesn't mean everybody who was taught that same lesson got that lesson and actually applied it to their lives.
Exactly.
So I feel like even when I became in certain groups in college, like I felt like every year I shifted in groups because everything was just so new to me. I was very much sheltered, and all my siblings don't have that same testament when it comes to that. I just wasn't like that. I wasn't around. I wasn't big on peer pressure. So even though I was quiet and I was timid, and everyone just assumed like that's why I said like when you talk around children who are quiet, don't assume that they're like either slow or they're not aware. I was very much aware of conversations, so I knew everybody business. I
Yep.
knew what was going on. I knew what way that I didn't want, like who I wanted to be associated with and who not, because I'm like, Mom, this is what this person said. Daddy, this is so and said this. And they're like, how do you know all this information? I said, they said it around me. They was like,
Yeah.
why are they having that type of conversation? I said, well, technically, I was in a corner and I was drawing, and they said I wasn't listening. And I mean, I'm a kid. So I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, yeah, you're not going back over there. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I was over there because I was chilling. And y'all was where y'all was at. And so people are very much impressionable. And so when I got older, I feel like in a lot of the groups, someone had asked me, why do you hang out with those individuals? Meaning the group of I had different groups of like people I associated myself with. And I said, well, out of all the people that are here that are in my class, those have been the most genuine people. They've never pressured me to be like, you need to go and talk to this person. Like I said, I was very much a late bloomer. I didn't talk to men or like date. And I never felt like, even though these particular group of women were very promiscuous, they were
Mhm.
very protective over me. So meaning, if they knew I felt uncomfortable with people flirting with me, and it would make me feel
Yes.
like almost like shut down, they would shut it down before it happened, and they would ask me like, "Are you okay with this?" And I'm like, "Mm." So they was just like, Don is not doing this. Don don't drink. Don don't do. It was almost like a badge of honor for them to be like, you may think that my friend would do this, but that's not Don. So don't try her.
Really.
And so I'm like, I just felt protected in that particular group. I never felt like they talked bad about me. And when people would talk about them, I'm like, those are actually really good women. As far as like, I feel like there's other, like, you don't know what people are going through. Just find out they upbringings, it wasn't the same, and a lot of it had a lot of like sexual trauma, where a lot of people just assume when women act a certain way, or even men, that it's because of X, Y, and Z, and they have no values, they weren't taught right. It can be people that are also in the church. It could, like, people have church trauma, or like issues or stuff like that, or it can be outside family where maybe a family member done something. And I just
Mhm.
learned, like, you just don't know why people do the things that they do, and how they seek love and validation from that. Meaning someone can give you excellent advice, pristine, like give you will feel motivated, like,
Mhm.
but they don't live that same way because they don't value themselves in that type of regards, because they may be feeling, devalued. And they will always tell me like, we were grateful to have you around us, because it was just like, we just got one good friend who does not out there. And I'm just like, I'm just glad that y'all like let me be around, because it also let me know. They would say like, when a dude do this, like they trying to play with you, and then like X, Y, and Z. And I would just remember like, well, I'm not, I ain't going over there. I ain't know what that meant. A guy had asked me to come to his room, y'all, and I was just like, oh my god, we're gonna watch movies. And they was like, Don, let me read the message
You
again.
say, girl.
Let's look at the emojis. They was like, girl, that's not, y'all not watching movies. I'm like, well, if we're not gonna watch a
Well,
movie,
then what we
then
doing?
what we gonna do? They was like, oh Lord, Don, tell him no. And I was like, well, okay. And it was like the first boy I ever liked in my like teenage adult years, without
Mhm.
like at home. And I was like, oh my God, like I was gonna go over there. And who knows, that big old man, I don't know. I was just so naive of like the whole
Yes.
conversation, because I'm like, oh, he was like very like flirtatious. And I just thought he was just so nice. And I'm a naturally flirtatious person, to where as much as I ask for discernment, I don't know social cues sometimes of like when someone is flirting with me, because I think that my behavior is like the same for a
Yeah,
guy.
you mirrored it.
They like, Don, do you not know you flirting with that person? I'm like, no, I'm not flirting with that man. I'm over here having a regular conversation. And it was like, ma'am, you can't be touching me. Because also remember, my mom is like, also, you don't know how much you kind of reflect your parents. My mom had a jovial personality, very touchy feely, and I'm like, my mom used to do that. And so, off topic. My dad be like, that's flirting. She was cheating. And she like, no, I was not. I'm just a nice person. So I just remember like people just are drawn to like, when I'm just talking, and I have to like almost kind of like watch, especially around women and like their husbands or their partners. I'm very much aware of that now, because I never want to be disrespectful, because you just don't know like what in different settings what stuff can mean. And so
Mhm.
that's what I had to learn then and even now. And like, even though it's all different, because like I'm talking about women, I'm talking about how we deal like when in groups. Because certain time like you like iron sharpens iron, but also certain stuff you're not gonna learn unless you kind of broaden your horizon of how, like, who you kind of navigate life with. And it doesn't mean like to this day, like none of those girls, like I've seen them online. We're not super close. Life has happened for them, but I just knew in that particular season there was a sense of closeness because that was just kind of like my what is it, what do they say, what do people say, my tribe at that moment.
Yes.
It was one of the tribes that I had different groups of girls that I had hung around with that brought different stuff to my life that I feel like maybe I poured into them and vice versa they poured into me, because I had told a person before, because I'm clingy. I said I want to be friends with you. She was just like this girl to this day, y'all. To this day, when I see her online, I be like, she just looked like just like a warm glass of milk that make you happy. She just have that look, and whenever you're around this person, like she used to make me feel so validated and just kind of like a big sister in a way. And like she kind of like took me under her wing, like a little mentee I was to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking to me because she also seen the girls I was hanging around. And she said, I understand those are your friends, but you still need to be mindful of how people perceive you, and you need to make a stand of what, like, who
Mm-hmm.
you are amongst them. And I said, you just so wise.
Yeah.
I said, we're gonna be friends forever. I don't
Yeah.
want us to ever not be friends. And she said, Dawn, I would want that too, but you need to understand that certain people have certain seasons in your life, and it may just be meant for a season. I said, "How are you 19 years old going around?" And that's how she talked, y'all. She was from Alabama,
Mm.
and she was talking like that. And I was like, it was probably the accent that got me. I was like, "No,
Yeah.
we friends forever." And she was like, "No, like you do understand that certain people have a reason to be like in that portion of your
Yeah.
life, whether it's you for them or them to you." And she's like, "I really feel like I am a part of a season for you." She said, "Not that I don't think that you're a good person, but I feel like you have more life, and I'm not, we can be friends, but don't get stuck on you having to be friends with me forever." Like
Yes.
you know what I mean? I just couldn't understand at that moment, and as time progressed, I kind of understood, because like then, like it's like my life shifted, and so did the people that I hung around. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's like certain people, like core values. I always had core friends, even though all of us are different. Like we may not all be
Exactly.
friends in a group, but certain people from different tribes of college, I'm still cool with. And the mindset of me like having them to be our friends, I had to learn like it's okay for us not to all be one big friend group, because I don't know how many women friends you have, Marlene, but sometimes that becomes stressful. Okay, different women's and different personalities, and the mindset of individuals thinking that men are any different. Y'all are crazy, not crazy, but I don't want to say crazy, but y'all will be surprised. Men are just as emotional and unstable as women. Men hide
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
and they're very reflective. But I feel like people are humans. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You deal with
Yeah.
life differently, and I feel like a lot of men, like when you have these stigmas, especially black men or black women, of like they want the woman has to be strong, the man has to be emotionless. I feel like that's not the case no more, and I'm learning that too. Like a lot of people are
Mhm.
really honing into therapy and trying to get some of those behaviors of how they deal with communication with
Right.
romantic partners, with family, that's not okay, like to shut down. As much as I say, like my mom would do something, my mom would shut down, and that's why I don't like people ignoring me, because it
Mhm.
makes me feel like I did something wrong. And
Yeah.
so we talked about that. Like we talked after I went to, like, I mean, mom, we talked like I feel like she's a friend, but she don't like, you know how parents are. I'm not one of your little friends. That's how she is.
Yes.
She will tell you right now, that's not one of my friends. You gotta, but my mom, I feel like she is a friend, even though like we go back and forth. I'm like, I'm not talking to you no more. I know that I'm coming back, because I mean, my mom is like, first off, she's my mother. Like I
Mhm.
only get one mom, I only get one dad. I love them to pieces, but even though they don't want me to consider us to be friends, I do. To a certain degree, I feel like there's a way that they pour into me, even if it's good or bad. There's a lesson from those, and I feel like the way that we, now she laughing, the the way that how I deal with the whole anxiety thing that stems from my mom. She would get so frustrated with it was a lot of us. I mean, you know how a lot of like
Yeah.
you have a lot of
Yeah.
children.
I have 9
That
siblings, so
If
I know.
if
Mm.
you really irritated her, not irritation, but disrespect, and she will discipline you, but a part of that discipline was the cutoff.
Yeah.
Straight up cutoff. And I
And,
mean she was cold. Like you be like, hello,
yeah,
hey, and she just
and
be like,
that's one of the things, Dawn, is that we have to recognize that it's I had to learn that too, that when somebody is not talking to you or is cutting you off or ignoring you, that it does not have anything to do with you.
mm-hmm.
I had to learn that even for myself, that there are times where I have to cut people off, and it's not because I'm upset with anybody or angry with anybody, but it's because I have to it's a part of self-preservation. I
Mm-hmm.
have to take care. I have to cut you off so that I can take care of my mental health, my spiritual health, my financial health, my physical health. I have to do things for me so that I don't drown. And what I would do is I know I would be drowning and I'd be like, hey, let me help you. Like, no, like, girl, no, you're doing too much.
And
So
do you feel like that's almost like a trigger response in a way of why you want to help people so much? Maybe something in your life to where you just feel like that was like your purpose, or like they just you got love when you did certain things for people. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's like being reflective on like why do certain things when it
mhm,
happens with people make us feel a certain type of way that we just have to kind of like do the actions that we're doing. Because that's the first thing I think about. I think Marlene's a helper because at some point of her life,
I
helping
didn't
people
have
was a certain sense of validation, especially with a big family. And I think you talked about this before. Everybody have their role in a family in a certain way,
that. Hmm.
that you always have that quiet one, the one who helps out, that you get recognition when like, well, if I tell Marlene to do this, she's going to get it done. And I
Yeah.
can see that being you, like, your mom probably didn't tell you stuff like 30,000 times. You like, I ain't getting in trouble. You gotta be out your mind. I'm too, about to whip me.
Yeah, I was like, no, but Don, that's the thing. People think that I was the worst child. Yes,
Marlene,
yes, Don. Yep, yep.
are you
I
the
could be
baby?
a liar. Lightning would strike me because
Are
I
you
was.
baby?
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
That's
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
you
Yeah,
my little treat. I
yeah,
I can see that.
yeah. So I when I got older, I was like, Mom, I'm sorry. I told my dad. My dad said, you see all these gray hairs.
Hmm.
You.
You put them
I'm like,
there.
Daddy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Daddy. But but I think when you are, I don't know if it's a last child syndrome, or I was a person that I forced my parents to change. I had baby boomer parents, and they grew up where children were seen and not heard, and
Hmm.
that wasn't going to work for me because I was like, why? And who's going to be there and why? And that's like, why are you asking me that, little girl? I
All
was like,
those
because I need
questions.
to know. Because I need to know who's going to be there. And people would be adults in the house, and I'm like 4 years
Girl,
old.
that calls for a whooping.
Yeah, I would be 4 years old, and I'd be like, "Hello, who are you?
Isn't
Like,
that
what are
wild
you
that
doing
people do
here?"
they do gentle parenting now? It's like the most craziest thing for me to witness gentle parenting. I feel like if I ever had a child, I would be a gentle parent because asking questions was not a thing back then. That's probably why I act the way that I act. I'm like, I wasn't allowed, even though we're both two different generations, not generations, but like we grew up differently and like parent
Mhm,
wise, culturally, that even though we're both different in that way,
mhm,
I was taught because it was super religious with my mom's side that you didn't have opportunity to ask questions. And I was talking to my aunt recently, and she was just saying, I don't like when kids be asking too much stuff. And I said, Auntie, that's not, you do understand that that creates other issues in the long run on why people have these things where they don't ask follow-up questions. They accept things how it is because
mhm,
someone said it's okay and you just need to do it. And you wonder why they can't be independent in a way because we was taught that mindset that we can't ask questions because you
mhm.
trying to be
It was
smart.
wrong,
You
or
know what I mean? I feel like
you're rude.
shifting the mindset of how we deal with people and like children, like that's been a big thing for me. So I feel like with my nephews, I encourage the question. Ask my mama. My mom said she get on her nerves when they be asking why. I feel like there's I always my nephew, it's a way that you can ask stuff that can be okay. And you may not get the answer that you like. I like that you are inquisitive, but it's the response too. You need to be respectful because first off, I said back in the day I wasn't allowed to ask questions. Not until like way later. You know what I mean? Like you would ask
Mhm.
like, so why did we do that? Or why did we go here?
Yeah.
Or why did I have to do this a certain way? And it's almost like the thought process. When they I always use this in like this situation like with a baby, like you tell them don't touch it, and then they keep trying to the parent let them burn themselves like that one good time. They're not gonna let them keep burning, but it's like you almost have to
Yeah.
learn off of experience versus someone just telling you no, don't do this, and you're like, but why can't I touch that? I really like the kid like, oh, that look is red, it's
Yeah.
hot. I
Yeah.
need to touch it, and it's
and
like,
and
oh
um,
Lord.
and I felt, why I used to always have a lot of anger issues towards my parents. I feel like if you're my parent and you don't explain why, and I go out there and somebody who doesn't know me, who has some ulterior motive, tells
Mhm.
me something else, I'm going to believe them because they're giving me an explanation. So that's one of the things that I think I made a lot of bad decisions. I'm being very gullible because many of us were not protected. It's like you were just thrown out into the deep end and it was like swim. And it's like, how I'm going to swim? I don't know how to swim. So that's one of the reasons why I said I'm a first generation healer and communication in my family. We're doing a lot of trauma healing and going through issues where you do have to heal that. And me and my siblings, we talk about that. Like, I remember when this happened and nobody said you did a great job. That affected me for years. And you'll think like, oh, that's nothing, like get over it. No,
Mhm.
validate. Sorry that I wasn't there for you. Sorry I didn't listen to you. You have to heal. You can't change what happened, but it's important, I think, for people that you love, that you validate them. Like, okay, there was a time I wasn't kind to you. I was rude. I didn't show up. I abandoned you. And I'm sorry for what I did or how I made you feel. That's maturity. And if you really love people, you need to be able to say that there was a time I wasn't mature enough to listen to you because I was selfish or because I was going through X, Y, and Z. It didn't mean I didn't love you, but I was so busy in my self preservation. I was so busy in my pain or my hurt or living my life or whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that it's right, but when you have that breakdown in communication within your family unit or your friendship, then other people start to have their own interpretation. They didn't
Mhm.
show up because they didn't want to show up. They didn't care. They hated me. That you insert your own feelings, you attach something to somebody as a way of a coping mechanism. At least that's what I did. And I had to learn to start having these conversations with my siblings like, when you didn't show up to my play or you didn't do this, or when I asked you to come to this and you didn't show up, that bothered me for years. And like, oh well, mom was there and dad was there. I said no, but I wanted my brother or my sister.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things that even while it may not be important to them, but you need to have those conversations with the people that you love, because that's a part of trauma healing and healing your inner child, so that at least I can't change that, but at least you're having the conversation to say, you know what, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. And I'm telling you, it does something. It's like a warm hug for your 4-year-old you, or whenever
Mhm.
something happened. It's like you're hugging that little girl, or you're
You
hugging.
sound like a therapist.
Yeah, it's a therapy, and talking about things. And that's why I talk about transparency versus honesty. And I know a lot of people think it's good to be honest, but I feel like for me, it's more important for me to be transparent. Like,
Mhm.
that's the thing that I didn't know at the time, but now I recognize it as a mature, open, healed woman, that I was looking for transparency from my parents and not just honesty, because we can be honest with somebody and you can crush and break somebody with honesty. But if you're transparent and saying it's no because I want to protect you, or I'm going through something, or I didn't show up because I don't have the money to pay for it. When you're transparent with people, you don't leave any room for any interpretation. And it's only certain individuals in your life that I feel that you should be transparent. The people that you really love, honesty is not enough. I especially say in romantic relationships and with your very close relatives that respect you and love you and pour into you, you need to be transparent. Hey, I know you're having this event, but I can't go because I don't have the money. It's not that I don't want to show up. So I don't want you to feel I'm not coming because I'm trying to abandon you. And that's the communication thing. And that's how you build close, respectful relationships, not just saying, oh, I won't be there. And then they'll be like, you don't want to be there. And then they'll insert
Narrative.
their own narrative in there. So that's why with the people that I love now, we have transparency. If I love you, I'm going to be transparent. And if I don't, those are the people I'm just going to be honest, because some people, they don't have that bond. They don't have that access to you. So I learned that difference through therapy and maturity, that there's certain individuals I'm going to be honest with because there's no attachment. But if I love you, I'm going to be transparent and tell you the reason why. And I think that was the thing that I was getting to. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I could have that conversation with my parents. Like, you brought me this emotional pain because you never said why. Like, how come you didn't show up? And then it was like, we didn't afford it. But I was like, but you didn't tell me that. You're just like, no, you're not going. And it's like, so, and I understand that they didn't grow up in that and they didn't know about communication, but I had to heal that and fix that between me and my parents so that I stopped having anger and resentment and pain, because you will shift. You're going to transfer that energy to other people in your life until you heal it.
I
And
have a question for you,
oh, go ahead.
Marlene.
Go ahead.
I don't want to cut you off, but before, because I'm like, once you get to going, she get to going, and my question will be leaving my brain. Because
Yeah,
y'all see,
that's
I'm like,
okay.
Jason,
Go
I'm
ahead.
like, remember the question, remember the question. How are you shifting your mindset when having those, as you're in this different process, with your family or the people, I guess, the people that you care about the most? Do you have to shift like the mindset when like turn on regular conversation when like it's supposed to be like a nice like a nice cool moment, not it's not going to be that thick water to where okay, now I have to shift my mindset to have this conversation, not to get offended, because certain times like you said, how you reflect on things that happen in your life can be completely different than what really happened, or people have different perspective of something because
Mhm.
everybody had a different experience. So do you feel like, is it a mind shift when you're having those conversations, and are you like affected, like when you do feel like it's negatively affecting you because now you've taken on this role of healing and being a healer of your family, even which is out of a, you said it's 11 of y'all.
It's 10 including me, so I have 9 siblings.
Not That's a lot of people to navigate emotions with, situations of how they view stuff, and especially with you being the youngest, meaning your perspective of things are and experience is going to be completely different just because of the
Yeah.
age gap. How are you navigating that, like shift, like the mindset of having those unpleasant conversations, and do you see that it positively affected your family and how y'all kind of interact now?
Well, one of the things that I will say is, first, I had to learn, and I learned, it took me a long time, like years in therapy. I had to learn first, the most important thing is how I felt. I had to learn to stop attaching how I felt to how other people were living their life. I had to give them that, extend that kindness, that mercy, that compassion. Let them be themselves, and you be yourself. And I think that's important because we want to control how other people think and feel, and you can't. You have to let them be them, and you have to let yourself be you. So when somebody is saying something to me that I care about and I love, I allow them to have their feelings. We can't control that. That's how
Mhm.
they feel, that's what they think, that's what they're going through. So when I know I'm going to have a conversation about something, maybe an issue, something that's bothering me, one of the things is first I like to have that conversation with myself. Like, how do I feel about it? And get very clear, because when you go into a conversation and you're not really prepared, you're just going by emotion. And I can say for me, there are a lot of situations that we go into with our emotions all wrapped up in it. And there are certain conversations that is logical. So you're not going to be in a good headspace, because this is not a decision that you need to be attaching emotion to. This is something that this is something that you need to be like, making some decisions. And I had to learn to stop attaching my emotions to everything. I'm like, this is some business stuff. And we need to get this done. It's not about what I like. It's not about what I think. So I know for me, that was a personal growth in learning to not attach my emotions to situations, and letting it be something like, this is business. This is not personal. This is not somebody being against me. This is just something that needs to happen.
I heard a lot of grace, and I heard a lot of like Marlene checking her heart posture when it comes to dealing with those situations, which is like a testament because everybody can't do it. And
Mhm,
you're right, I feel like it isn't like an overnight thing as far as how we deal with situations and dealing with like especially when it comes with growth
mhm.
and compassion, especially I feel like family is probably one of the hardest thing to
Yes.
deal with when it comes to like reevaluating it and like shifting almost like the relationships with even probably even more than romantic relationships because those are not the long relationships in our lives. Like the people that's been around us our whole entire life is like some people have different versions of us, and that's like they may remember Marlene as a kid, this little baby, this little bratty. She just tell her all of this, or Dawn, over here she don't have a mind because she just quiet. Like people see you only in those settings, so I feel like it's very interesting, like to hear your perspective on it, only because I feel like I didn't know it was even though we have like an age gap. I don't even know how big. It's not even a big of age gap. We have a big gap in our positions in family. Like you're the youngest and I'm basically the oldest, but not I'm like the second oldest. So like we both had different experiences as in like kind of like our perspective in like the position of the family. And
Mhm.
so it's almost interesting to almost even though we weren't in the same position, like we're in the same parts of our lives where we're trying to shift the atmosphere of like breaking generational curses,
Yes.
how we deal with our family and love and like our life in general. And when you was talking, that's like you sound like a therapist because a lot in therapy, because I feel like that's how someone did therapy when they talk about talking to like your younger self. A lot of the
Yeah.
way of how we do things as adults come from how we dealt with situations as children and how they unintentionally affected us and how we deal with stuff as adults. And like once he started addressing that, then that's like the biggest like shifts in our lives happen because then you like this is why I do this. And it's like almost like the most craziest thing. Like especially I feel like it always happened in therapy or church, but mostly in therapy and then you be in church and you be like, I knew it. But like you be like, this is why I do this, and it's so wild, even how we deal with our family after even going like therapy. I think everybody should have therapy. I understand it's not free for everyone, but like even if like read a lot like self motivational books, like we have access, y'all have access to Marlene's channel and other channel like Boss Life Online, people who promote self self growth.
Mhm.
That's when you kind of address like you for real. So you can't really address people until you kind of like address yourself, and that's a part of even boundaries of why you react to those boundaries being crossed. 9 out of 10 is because of something that happened in your childhood. Like
Yes.
if every time when you talking to a therapist and they're like, why did they always ask you, how did that make you feel? And what inner child did that unlock? And when is the first time you felt the way that you can remember why you feel the way that you feel about that situation? You're like, I never thought about that. I don't think, and you know what's most, I don't know if you ever did that where they do the therapy where you have to close your eyes and go back into like situations.
Yes.
It is so emotional because you don't even know like um that you don't when situations are happening. I don't want to divert. You know, we're not gonna be in here forever, but how your body reacts is
Yep.
crazy. Like you don't even you don't even know that that's happening, and then figuring out why is my body reacting the way that it's reacting. So a lot of times when we see videos of people online like spazzing out, or we like, oh, they crazy, or oh, they're like a manipulator, or, oh, like they're toxic. It stems from something, especially when they're constantly being triggered. And
Yes.
then it also comes with the responsibility of that person, as Marlene says, like you have to work on yourself. Everyone isn't responsible for respecting your boundaries and respecting you if you don't respect you. So I mean, you can still get triggered off of a lot of the stuff, but you need to address why am I reacting this way off of off of a boundary being disrespected, and why am I allowing myself to be put in this situation? Stuff where people who are getting like divorces or like having to deal with people like you kind of like forced to deal with them, those are different situations. I can't I've never been married or had children
Mhm.
or had to be in a divorce. I feel like that's why you have to have a strong community of people who are like-minded, and
Mhm.
who maybe been through those situations or can give you like actual solid advice about certain stuff. I feel like you can't go to a single person and ask them about marriage when they've never been married. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It's like you getting advice for children about how to raise a child, and the person never had a kid. And I used to be that person where I'd be like, well, if I would offer up the advice like, I feel like the reason your kids is bad is because you don't do X, Y, and Z. But also, I've never experienced raising a child in the capacity where I birthed them, or either I have guardianship over children. I
Right.
haven't experienced that, which is a totally different thing. And people think, well, I was in the same household with this kid. It's the same thing. No, it's not. When you're responsible for the feeding, the upbringing, the emotional intelligence of a child, what they do and like can be
Yes.
around, and certain stuff you can't, like you try your best as a parent to make sure there's no trauma around your kids. And sometimes you're inflicting that trauma on them. Or sometimes you're putting them in situations unintentionally where something has happened to them and you like, someone did what around you? And you like, how did I not notice when I felt like I kept you in a bubble? And even people in bubbles, like stuff just happens. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's when you kind of have to pray over yourself and over others too, especially if they're like your family, to kind of keep that
Yes.
like together. And I feel like that's a big thing that I'm trying to make sure every day that I start my day off with not only daily motivationals, but like prayer over me and the people that I love and the people that I don't even think about to even pray for. Like they're protected mentally and emotionally and physically, because you just don't know how people are being affected, and especially these babies. We're in a generation of like so much people being having access to the internet, kids, to where they're growing up quicker and having to experience life quickly. And a lot of people say, well, no, this has always happened. I said, yes, but
Mhm.
the access to it happening quicker to me just seems like a lot. Where before you could have control over the internet is a gift and a curse at the same time. They have access to stuff. So, meaning when they deal with certain things, now they can have resources, but sometimes it's negative resources where it's like I don't want them to have access to that. Like their brains are still developing. And as a parent, you want to have control over like that person, that little human that's going to one day be an adult, how they treat and love other people. And this world is just so like it's so wild that even me, I feel like I'm almost re-raising myself,
Mhm.
like how I like respond to certain stuff. I
I've
don't know
said
if you feel the
I've
same way. That's how I feel.
I said that and people look at me like I'm crazy unless you've gone through therapy. Just can't understand like and it's a difference of going to therapy and learning and growing like and being in a space to receive it, because I've done therapy twice in my life. I did therapy when I was a teenager because I was forced to go, and it was like, okay, I'm here, with attitude folding your hands, like
Hmm.
you're there and you're listening, but it doesn't mean you're ready to do anything about it. So
Do that
I
work.
Yeah, I went to therapy when I was in the space like I'm tired of being unhappy. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of holding all this pain. Like I know that therapy when I went the second time was at the right time and I had the right person. And I've said that all the time when people say therapy didn't work for them. I always say it's a few things that's involved in the healing from therapy. You have to be in a space of where you're ready to learn, you're ready to grow through it, you're ready to put in the action, and you're ready to forgive. You have to be in a space of all those three things at the same time. And also one of the most important things is who you have as a therapist. And I the first time I had a therapist, it was a nice little old lady, and she was nice and everything, and she said the things. But the second time I made sure I did my research and I got myself a Caribbean therapist. And people like Caribbean, they're like, what? Why does that matter? You need to have somebody that can relate to you.
Mhm.
And I had to, like, the first time I was saying stuff about what happened in my culture, and people were like, oh, no, that should not have happened. They shouldn't. No, but the next time when I went and I told them, and they was like, yeah, you deserve that because so it's a whole difference because you have to have somebody that gets you, that understands, and make sure you do your research so that you get a person that you can relate to, that it's not just somebody who's in a book reading, okay, this is what you should do, cookie cutter. No, you have to have somebody who has been through something similar like you. So the next time, that's how she was instrumental in me shifting into who I am today. It's her, my mentor, and it was also me as a woman being tired of running from my past. I don't know who has ever been in that situation. It's like you're a caged bird, but the cage is open. And all you have to do is push
Mhm.
it and open it. But we cage ourselves in pain and problems. And for me, when my therapist told me, you can stop being angry anytime you want to. Dawn, when I said, I got so pissed off when she
Like,
said that.
excuse me, do
It's
you
like,
not
who wants to
understand?
be angry? Like I was going off, and she said that right there. I learned from her in that moment that we have the power over how we think. We have the power that if somebody says something, why do I let that
Power in
affect?
our tongue.
Yeah.
They
We have the
tell us
power of
that.
the tongue. We have the power of control. Like why do we
We self
allow another
control.
person to affect us? That was another thing that, yeah, they're over there and you may not like it. You may not, whatever, agree with it, but that's their life. That's what they're dealing with. And I had to learn that you don't have to react to everything in a
Ooh,
negative way. That was me growing up and maturing, because I was like, I don't like that. Like I felt like, because if I didn't like it, I have to tell them I don't like that, or that's not how it should be, or that wasn't how I was raised up.
raised.
So that was therapy taught me to be compassionate and to listen more than I talk. My dad used to always say that, and I used to think he was crazy. He was like, you have two ears and one mouth. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, that's stupid. But as
Mhm.
now that he's not here anymore, and I think about the things that my dad used to tell me, he was a very wise man. He was a man of very few words. My mom was the one that was always the talker, but my dad,
Why is it always like that?
yeah, my mom was the one. Oh yeah, she was gonna zing you and give it to you and tell you everything you needed to hear. But my dad was the person that you went to when you needed to get some good advice, because he wasn't just going to. He was going to think and say, okay, and then he would give you the advice. And my dad would only say like 3 or 4 words, like very, and it was like, whoa. I was like, Daddy, how did you? What? And he was like, mm-hmm. So I think that's what helped me to be the person that I am. I'm blended. I had learned from my mom that you need to speak up for yourself, but I learned from my dad that you need to learn to be quiet too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's it comes in handy, especially in a work environment. To a lot
Hmm.
of people, they don't listen. to even kind of like gauge the room, almost in a way. Because I've been on some podcasts where not been on, but like listen to them, and they was like, "Oh, so and so, you haven't said nothing yet." And then when they opened their mouth, they was like, "I was listening to everybody, taking it in." And then it comes
Mhm.
spilling out like their perspective. And it's like, I had this same, I wanted to almost kind of gauge the room because I don't want to repeat nothing, but maybe even elaborate on something that someone may have said. So I am a strong believer. Do I listen to always to the whole listen and don't talk? I am a chatty Cathy. Marlene's the ears, I'm the mouth, because I just be going. And sir, when you say that, it made me think of how sometimes when we're so angry, not angry, but like something can almost
Mhm.
like sparking conversation, and we're going back and forth with somebody and upset, even in text message. And then you go back and you read, or well, you said this, and they said, I never said that. But that's what I heard. But what did I say? And then you hear it and you read it back and you're like, oh my, and it's been so many times, yeah. I didn't run back and read messages like, I'm so glad I didn't respond, because that's not how I read it, because I was like kind of like hiding because I thought they said something else because I was on guard, to where now I'm just like, sometimes I need to take a breath before I respond to something, because I don't want to respond off of temporary emotions that can affect like long lasting relationships, or like especially in a work environment, because sometimes I'll be like, you done mess with the wrong person, babe. My mama name is so and so, and she do not play, and you not about to play on my time either. And they like, Dog, I'm like, give me a second. I'm not gonna respond yet to their email, but I just need to chill out a little second. I'm gonna reread it in about 10 minutes, come back and try to get their perspective, and then address it then. So
Mhm.
that is the true definition of wisdom. I feel like it's to listen and then take it in and then respond. Because my dad was always big on follow up questions, which even now as an adult, it just kind of like grinds my gears. Because I'm like, he always says there's always a motive in a person's questioning, even if you don't know what the motive is yet.
Mhm.
That whenever we have issues or he gives advice, sometimes I feel like he doesn't even come with like the first big like he always have a good one liner, like, you know what I mean. And so he would have the one liner, and then he was like, well, tell me what made you do that. And I'm just thinking, like, what made me do that? I mean, when you see, I just told you that when I was walking down the street, Alyssa pushed me, and I told her about her daddy, who I heard, I'm listening to a real story, but you know what I'm saying? I was just like saying, he was just like, do you think that was wise to do that? And like, just in general, I'm like, I guess so. I mean, why not? And then he was like, just think, and he would just ask all of these questions. And I'm like, why, whenever I talk to you, I feel like it's a long drawn out situation. And he was like, because you want to learn that people would tell you, even if they don't know what they're trying to say, if you ask the right questions, you'll get there, and then you can deal with it accordingly. And he was like, sir, I'm just trying to teach you, just sometimes the ration of how you do think of stuff may not be as cut dry as how you trying to act. And he's like, you are a young lady, people are watching you, and there's going to always be a certain way that you're going to be viewed that's going to be different from your brothers. So I'm asking you these questions, 'cause I'm trying to figure out what happened, how did y'all get there. And my dad is super rational, typical man, like that will sit there and be like, women is with all their emotions. The problem is y'all just be going and don't know what y'all talking about. He's that man, and he's just like, I'm like, no, daddy, I don't. So whenever I really want sound advice, to where I feel like it's not, sometimes it's biased, but for the most part, he asks questions because he's trying to get the thought process of behind why I'm first telling him the story. So my dad probably know more about the men that I've ever dated than anyone, like
Mhm.
out of my
Yeah.
mom, like my parents, because he's like, why would you do that? Or what led to that situation where you to go off? And I would say like a lot of stuff. He said, watch what you say, because I used to say, I just want someone to beat me. And he was like, where did you get that from? And I'm like, that's what love
Power of
is,
the
daddy.
tongue. Yeah.
That's what love is. That's what they used online. They said if it's not passion, it ain't right. And he was like, please don't say that no more. He said, you sound
Yeah.
like an abusive woman, or a woman who want to be abused. I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, for some reason, it energized me. He was like, yeah, you need to go back to therapy. I'm like, no, I'm just playing. He's like, no, but there's power in your tongue. You're setting the tone for that type of thing that can possibly happen in your life, because you over here kind of like act like it's fun, and it could be something that can be like, oh, it can be a good thing. There's a lot of people who deal with, domestic violence in that way, to where they not going around wishing to be abused, Don. And I'm like, well, I was just being funny, because dark humor is not good humor all the time. You're setting a
Yeah.
tone for your life, and of people like that energy to come on in you. So I'm learning that, my dark humor doesn't always have to come out of my mouth, because there was a situation I talked up, because I kept saying it. I said, me and this person won't be friends. Me and this person won't be friends. I could feel it. This was just boiling up to the point to when it happened. I already knew it. So my reaction for it, I was already shut off from it. And they
Mhm.
was like, "Why don't you care?" I said, "I had already spoken into existence, even though like I wanted like." I said, "Yeah, it wasn't right, but I felt like me and this person was gonna be friends, and it was like a family." And they was like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like I just felt it. Like I just felt that we wasn't gonna be friends no more." And like to this day, I'm like, I just should have never put it out there, because family is family, and of course they don't always have to be your friends. And I love all my family is huge, and you come from a big family, so there's always extension. People have kids, you have cousins who have children or second generations, and I feel
Yeah.
like we're at a point in our big family to where we're relearning, like how you saying you're healing within like your immediate
Mhm.
family. Our family as a whole, I feel like it's in a healing stage, because there's been a lot of traumatic things that are happening. And I think people feel like they've been very forthcoming and giving when it comes to grace, when they've dealt with certain family members, to where even I've been went off on like a family member who was like a matriarch considered in our family, not go off, but like set a like a boundary with them.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, I don't care how they feel. And that family member had a conversation with me later on and was like, like, I never took it personally when you did what you did, but it's not that cut dry for me. And this is why I do the things that I do as far as like interaction. And to this day, that family member is like kind of like outcasted from our family, just because how they move about stuff. But I also told them that sometimes like you may feel a certain way about certain stuff, but I feel like everything isn't about you.
Yes.
Even though everything is about you, like you should care about yourself and how you deal with people and like your mental health. But in life, the world doesn't revolve around Marlene. It doesn't revolve around Don. It doesn't revolve around Gia. Like life does not stop when we say stop. It still moves for people, just how we have moving parts and we have to still move and do things. I feel like that's how it is for other people, and they could be dealing with their own traumatic stuff, and we just don't care, because it's like, well, I'm dealing with this. Something's happened to me,
Yeah.
and y'all don't care.
We feel like our problems are bigger than
Trump
theirs.
trumps all
Yeah.
everybody else's, and
Say
it don't. And I feel like that's when I'm trying, like you have to be very reflective of like situations, and then ask for compassion. Like I feel like compassion is really big when it comes to situations like that, especially with family. So I really value family. I feel like that's like my main thing in life right now. It's like I feel like at the end of the day, when you were not here, I mean, we'll have YouTube if YouTube is still around for years and years ago. But like, there's a certain sense of tone of legacy that we leave within our family, who are gonna always talk about. You remember Aunt Marlene, or you remember Aunt Dawn, and or like you remember when Marlene used to post this stuff, because we're not gonna, like, life isn't forever. Like we're
yeah.
not promised life tomorrow. We can only do what we can do today and make sure we have a good impact and do things how God wants us to do it. So
Yes.
that's why I feel like now that is the season that I'm shifting to. Like I want our marks to be known like for generations and generations to come. And I feel like you are a really good example with your channels, multiple channels, y'all.
Yes.
It's giving the thousands channels for no reason, but she makes sure everyone has a reason and is
Yeah. They
consistent.
all have a purpose. Yeah.
It's all
Everyone
purpose
focus
driven.
on
And I'm just like, Marlene, how do you have the time? And she's just like, if you really want to do something, you'll do it. And I feel like
that.
you are a true example of that, because like I don't know how you do it. I could really do it with the little channels that I got the two, and I have so many stuff. And you's like, just do this. Like it almost like a shift in like how we interacted, Originally, that's not what it was. I was like the one that was pushing Marlene to do stuff to where she was like,
Yeah.
"Nah,
I remember in the beginning,
it takes 5 seconds for you to
l-
post a picture,
l-
a
yeah,
video, a cute little clip. It don't have to always be you." I'm like, she said, "You got a dog."
yeah,
I
that
said,
that
"I know, I know."
that's what I've learned from social media and life, and also from maturity, is sometimes you have to do things because you have to do it, and that's it. You have to go to work, you have to interact with people, but also I had to learn that in the journey of my life, I had to make a shift to say, I don't want to just go through life. I learned this very profoundly from one of my special friends who's no longer here, Miss Arlene, and she taught me that you can either go through life or you can live your life. It's a big difference. You can just be going through, same a next day, but the same situation, like, being on that um the wheel, and you're running, you're going, but just because you're actively busy doesn't mean you're making any moves forward in your life, in your mind, in your heart, in your finances, in your spirituality. It means that you have to actively do something. What am I willing to do? What am I willing to sacrifice to have the life that I want? And I call it curating my life. And
Ooh,
yeah,
is that a
so
series that's coming?
yes.
I'm listening. I'm like, Marlene be dropping gems and dropping future series or stuff that she's
Yeah,
working on. She's like,
it's
it's coming. The book is coming. The
curating
series
my
is
life.
coming.
It's going to be a series where I'm going to be talking about certain things. So look out for that. It's going to be topics. I think my first one is coming up tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. So, curating my life, we're going to be talking about a topic tomorrow, and we're just going to go through a lot of things that we need to do in order to have the life that we want, that we deserve. And
Hmm.
I learned one thing, that I think therapy gives you the tools to be healthy, but it's all about application. It's how much you want to apply.
Hmm.
And that's the topic for tomorrow. Hunger for life.
Is this a live
No, it's a
stream,
video.
a video?
Yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow is a video. So that's what I'm talking about tomorrow. And curating your life. It's a hunger for life. And what are you willing to do? And how hungry are you to have the life that you want? And it shows a difference on people, with when you talk about really eating physical food. Some people can eat a lot and some people can eat very little, but it's like, how hungry are you for your life? Not how your sibling, your parent, people on social media. It's how are you willing, what are you willing to do to have the life that you want? And I know for me, why I'm able to do so many things is because I'm hungry. And I'm hungry. And until you get hungry, it's going to be, your life is going to be what you've always had. And I learned that. I don't remember what book I read, but it's one of the motivational books. I think it was Suze Orman. I think so. And she was talking about how important it is for us to um not to stop talking about what we want, because that's an easy thing. It's easy to talk about, I want this, I want. And she taught me, stop talking about what you want and just do it.
Hmm. Action.
So it's the action thing. And we get in that cycle. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to, nope. She's like, cut that off. Cut it all off and just do it. So instead of saying, I'm going to do this or I'm about to, she said, first make your plan. Because that is the reason why people don't get to their levels of success and personal growth, is because they're so busy talking about a plan, talking about a goal, instead of making a plan to make that thing succeed, that thing thrive. So that's why people just fall off, is because you could talk about it, but what are you doing that is specific and realistic? Those are my two favorite words. I love specific and realistic because if you don't have a specific way to make something happen, it's going to fall through. You're going to punch holes in the plan. It's like being in a canoe and there being a hole. No matter how much you're putting in the effort, that water is going to come no matter how much you try to bail it out. So
Need to fix that hole.
you got to fix the hole first. And that's what I feel like I had to do for me. I had to fix me and the pain and the trauma. And then now I'm in a space, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm positive, and now I'm making the application that I call it turning my pain into my power, which is going to be another part of the curating my life. It's taking the situations that you went through and using it as sort of your rocket fuel, like, because this happened to me, I
Mm-hmm.
have every reason to do X, Y, and Z. So it's just a matter of shifting that. So instead of sitting with that pain and being angry and being mad, it's taking that pain and using it and saying, because I went through this, I learned this, I met this person, I did this, and learning to be intentional about taking that and putting it into a transfer of energy into something great. I love that. Yeah, yeah, I love that. So we're going to be talking about that soon. So, any final words, Dawn, so we can bring this to an end because we have been on here 2 hours.
That is wild. When we were just like, oh, just a couple
Yeah,
minutes,
I was like, let's just do
20
15
minutes.
minutes. We're like, yeah, come on, in and out. We're out of here.
Then you get when you get two chatty Cathys together, just start going. I guess first and foremost, I feel like as far as just like reflective of the whole like the power of small shifts, I think like the last words probably the same as like what I've always been saying is that it starts with you. You have to. I like that she said intentional, but like you said in the mindset to move stuff in motion has been a big thing. Be reflective of yourself. And I like the idea, like we said, like kind of like write stuff down so that way you can know the progression. And so things don't have to be huge as in progression. It starts off small. So certain times people think that in order for me to make a true impact with things, I need to do these big things. I need to have this business, but it all starts small. Like, you need to do all these smart, intricate things in order to even get that business. You need to have a name, you need to have a plan. And so those are a part of like the implementation part of stuff that we don't think about. So I like that idea of like, as we make these small shifts, be intentional and then have a plan in motion. Secondly, I like to thank Marlene for allowing me to be on her platform.
Pleasure.
I'm very much proud of the progression of the small shifts that Marlene has made to be able to have these big impact on the web and social media content creation on all platforms, which it makes me very much proud and motivated. So I was like, just continue for you to keep motivating, whether it's one or two, 10 or 4,000, coming up million plus people that may come across your video. So you never know
Yes.
now or in the future who can come across it and who it can impact. So it's a big testament for you, and it's a big testament that you allowed me to come on here another time. It's like this is my third time on here, so I think
Yes.
that's my officially second. But I've been on other lives just
Yeah.
casual with you, so I'm very much grateful for that. And if anyone who has not already followed me, my YouTube name is delightful underscore Dawn. That is DELIGHT FUL underscore DAWN. I don't have it on the screen.
I have put it in the comment
It
section.
is in the comment sections, and I'm for sure that I'll comment on the video after the live is over, so I can have my information there. And then on my Instagram is delightful underscore Dawn as well. If you guys want to follow me on that platform, and then delightful underscore Dawn 1 on TikTok. If y'all are with the children over there, I am there on occasions as well, and I appreciate it once again for you allowing me here. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Marlene.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, everybody, please go over and follow Dawn on all social media handles. And I started talking about being um, I talked about being specific, but also I didn't talk about being realistic. So I'm going to leave on that note. I think it's important for us to be realistic with ourselves. Everybody's different, and that's something that I had to embrace. My story is not Dawn's, or your mom, your dad, your friend, somebody on social media. And I think that's important for you to elevate and to get into your abundant mindset. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you're worth. You have to know what you're capable of, and be realistic and do the things that you know you can do. And it fills up your cup. It's restorative. And that's where I like to vibrate at that level. I like to stay where I'm doing the things that make me feel good, and that I know when I feel my best, I know I can help and support somebody else. And that is a shift for me, learning that, in me being realistic and saying this realistic expectation. I know that's not me. I was like, that's Dawn, or that's Gio, or that's this person, that person. When I do that, I'm able to be my best, because I don't feel like I have to be anybody other than me. And it's important, and more people need to embrace that. That's not my lane. I don't want to copy anybody. I don't want to be like anybody. I just want to be like me. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good.
That good stuff. So thank you so much, Dawn, for coming in. And I want to acknowledge everybody who came through. Thank you, Maxine, Dawn's mom. um, Thank you, Gio. And I think that we had Wellness with Frugal Mama in here. We had a realist one here. We had East Dad. And I know we had Colton in here. And I think that was it of the people who were in the chat. And I'm sure there were people who were here in the background. So if anybody was in here just listening and chilling out on this Sunday, thank you for coming to the podcast discussion. There's going to be more live streams where we're going to be talking about some motivational, inspirational, spiritual topics. It's more going to be on the looking for the sun. It's more on the spiritual aspects, tuning into being our best self spiritually, but there'll be other nuggets and gems as well. So yeah, I love that. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Yeah, it's fine. Don, you can turn your camera off.
I just wanted them to see how cute I was.
Yeah, she worked hard on that avatar, y'all.
I
So
did, I did.
yeah, I'll give them mine too. Yeah,
Yes, we
give them
look
the
cute.
avatars before we get out of here. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. I am Marlene Motivates, and I am your life coach for all of the mindset shifting, for the positive, for the inspirational, because I always talk about this saying, just know it, just breathe it, and be it. It's so important to be your authentic self and allow yourself to heal, allow yourself to grow, and allow yourself to use your talents and your gifts. Thank you all so much for being here. Blessings to everybody, and we will see you all on the next live stream and videos. Bye.
I forgive me. I love me. I've been blessed that I have made it through. I'm stronger and worthy. I am enough now. What about you? I forgive me. I love me. I've been blessed that I have made it through. I'm stronger and worthy. I am enough now. What about you? Ooh, yeah.